Texas Senator Ted Cruz is a member of the Judiciary Committee. Good morning to you, Senator. Great to have you here this morning.
Good morning. Great to see you.
What a week.
Slow news day. Not much happening.
I mean, put this in perspective. I mean, where does this leave things? And as we make very clear that Congress goes off for a 2-week recess now.
Look, Washington is always a circus, but this is 3 rings with all the clowns, and it's nuts right now. And it's driven at the end of the day. Congressional Democrats are angry. They're angry about the 2016 election, and ultimately they're angry at the voters. They're angry that the voters elected President Trump. All of this from day one. From day one, they have been wanting to get this president out of office. And as a result, they're not doing their job. They're not actually interested in legislating. They're not actually interested in working together to produce more jobs and raise wages and expand opportunity. It's just about attacking the president.
Senator, you're referencing back to the impeachment announcement made this week by the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. In the days that followed that, we got the release of this transcript phone call with the president of Ukraine. That was then made public, unredacted. Then the whistleblower complaint the next day, that came out for the public to see and read. Did anything that came up in both of those documents concern you, Senator?
Well, listen, what we have seen from the Democrats is a consistent and relentless push to impeach, regardless of the facts. So for months and months and months, it was all about Mueller. Mueller. Mueller's going to prove everything's wrong. Then the Mueller report came in and it found no collusion. And suddenly all the Democrats who'd been screaming impeach, they had nothing to say. Right now, they're all screaming Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. And oddly enough, it's the exact same conclusion, impeach the president. By the way, in a month or two, it's liable to be something else. It's not driven by facts. Look, we ought to know what the facts are. There's an investigation in the Senate. The Senate voted unanimously to send this complaint to the Senate Intelligence Committee. We'll figure out what the facts are.
But did any of the allegations about pressuring the Ukrainian president to act on Joe Biden's family, using congressionally approved funds, mentions of Rudy Giuliani meeting with world leaders, this is the president's personal attorney, did anything concern you?
Well, look, I read the transcript carefully. I've read the entire whistleblower complaint, so-called whistleblower complaint. I got to say, the transcript sure didn't live up to its billing. So just a few days ago, the Democrats were breathlessly on TV saying, you're going to see an illegal quid pro quo. It's going to prove that. Well, you look at the transcript, there's no illegal quid pro quo in that transcript. The president is asking another foreign leader to assist in investigating, number one, election interference into 2016. Now that investigating election interference into 2016 is a perfectly legitimate and appropriate law enforcement priority. That the Democrats have been talking nonstop about Russian interference. I'm not sure why they somehow think Ukrainian interference shouldn't be examined.
It strikes me, you ran for president, you fought Donald Trump tooth and nail. I mean, you two exchanged some pretty tough language. But at the end of the day, he won, and you recognize him as the president.
Yep.
It appears that many on the other side of the aisle have not accepted that outcome.
Well, I've got a job to do. And my job is representing 28 million Texans. So you're right. Look, there was a rough and tumble primary. There were some hard blows that were thrown. But at the end of the day, we have a democratic process. The voters decided Donald Trump is the president. And my job is to fight for the people of Texas. And so I've worked hand in hand with the president for the last 2.5 years, worked very closely with the president. He was down in Houston just on Sunday. I was with him at an incredible event with India's Prime Minister Modi. And the Democrats, starting on Election Day, there was like this primal scream. Look, we all remember watching, and you could see the newscasters on other networks that I think there's no mystery for whom they voted in 2016. You could see their look of shock and anger, and that anger has never receded.
But that brings us to today, and Nancy Pelosi says this is not about politics in her moment this week. She says it's about putting country before party. Here's the speaker in her own words.
The impeachment of a president is as serious as our congressional responsibilities can be, apart from declaring war or something. And so we have to be very prayerful. The Democrats and Republicans, we have to put country before party very clearly in the public view.
But now we're talking about impeachment and Ukraine. And until recently, she had been pushing, her party had been pushing for gun reform. You have come up with a way to beef up the system, background check system for purchasing guns in this country. Can anything get done on gun reform in the face of all of this?
Well, it certainly should. Let me say two things about that. One, watching Speaker Pelosi, I think Nancy understands that impeachment is a train wreck for the Democrats. She has been trying to hold back the hordes. And you know, watching her, it almost reminded me of a hostage video. I think she was blinking SOS. Her extreme left is angry. They're marching in the street with pitchforks and torches. And Pelosi, the reason they're going down the road of impeachment is she doesn't have any choice. That's not good for the American people. You talk about gun violence. Look, we have seen far too many mass murders. In my home state of Texas, I've been there for too many of these mass murders in the days and weeks that follow, whether in El Paso or Odessa or Santa Fe or Sutherland Springs. And there's a lot we can do. Going back to 2013, I introduced legislation, Grassley-Cruz, that focuses on the bad guys, that focuses on felons and fugitives and those with dangerous mental illness, that strengthens background checks, that gets guns out of the hands of criminals, and that also protects the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. The Democrats don't want to do that. Instead, they just want to attack the president.
But you're suggesting she doesn't have control of her own party.
Well, she doesn't. I mean, her base is so filled with rage that sadly, I expect the next year, I don't think the Pelosi House has any interest in any meaningful substantive legislation.
So you have the votes to get your legislation through the Senate.
Yes.
But it goes over to the House, and what happens?
Well, you know, in 2013, we took up Grassley-Cruz. It was a Democratic Senate. It was a Harry Reid Senate at the time. And Grassley-Cruz got 52 votes. We got a majority of the Senate supported it. We got 9 Democrats. We got the most bipartisan support of any of the comprehensive legislation. But unfortunately, Harry Reid and the Democrats filibustered it. They demanded 60, so it didn't pass. And I'll tell you, unlike all these Democratic proposals, so every time you have a mass shooting, the Democrats say, let's go after law-abiding citizens, let's undermine their Second Amendment rights. Their proposals don't work. They wouldn't have prevented any of these mass shootings. Grassley-Cruz, if you look at it, there's a very good argument we could have prevented a number of these mass shootings. Why? Because it targets the bad guys, the violent criminals, and it gets the guns out of their hands. And when they break the law, it directs DOJ to prosecute them. Here's an amazing thing. When felons and fugitives try to illegally buy guns, the Department of Justice, by and large, doesn't prosecute them. Grassley-Cruz says, if you have a felon who tries to illegally buy a gun, go prosecute them, put them in jail so they can't commit a crime. That's common sense. That's what we ought to be doing. But at least right now, the House doesn't seem to have any interest in doing that.
All right. And off to a 2-week recess, everyone goes. So we know you're heading back to Texas, so we appreciate you stopping in America's Newsroom first, Senator.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.